Hey, everybody, and happy Monday. It is time for another SideKick Power Hour, and I'm your host, Joshua R. Pangborn. I am so excited to be here, as always, with you on Monday nights. It makes Monday a little bit better to have all of you here with me and to be able to spend it here talking about some of my favorite things, which is queer, fat, positive, and horror shows and movies and television and books. All of those things that I love and you love, and we all love together. Happy Monday, everybody. And I am really excited for tonight's show. We have a very special guest who I have chatted with a little bit and worked with, talked to tangentially, but I've never actually met digitally face to face until 5 minutes before the show started. And I'm so excited because I feel like I have known Roger for at least a year now, but I've never really actually met him until tonight. So I'm really excited for you all to meet Roger and for me to get to talk to him more. So, but before we do that, a couple things to catch you up on. As you know, we have all sorts of things going on in Sidekick Productions. We have our very own. The most exciting thing, though, I think that we have coming up is something I'm going to tell you about right away. I was going to wait till the end of the show for this, but I think I really want to tell you now because I am psyched about this. So, a lot of people have asked about how they can watch The Brooklyn Butcher. If you don't know what The Brooklyn Butcher is, a quick refresher for you. The Brooklyn Butcher is our second feature film. It's the feature film we made in 2023, and it is our anthology feature film. It's been making the circuit in the festivals, and it's been doing really well in the festivals. And now I'm ready to sort of dabble in showing people what the movie's like outside of a festival environment. And I thought one of the best ways to do that is to host a virtual screening. But not just a virtual screening, I'm going to host two virtual screenings. So, for those of you who wanted to watch The Brooklyn Butcher and weren't sure how you're going to be able to do it, I'm going to have two virtual screenings next week, the week of Thanksgiving. So, I wanted to give a little bit back to all of you and give some thanks to all of you. And I'm doing that by having our first event, Sidekick Productions Goes to the Movies. We will be hosting two virtual screenings of The Brooklyn Butcher. One is next Wednesday, November 27th at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, and the other is Saturday, November 30th at noon Eastern Standard Time. Tickets are $5, and you can go via PayPal or Venmo. If neither of those works, you can reach out to me, and I can tell you other ways you can send $5. But tickets are $5 US. Make sure you include your email and let me know what of the two performances you want to go to, so that way you can watch the film. I will send you a link and you'll be able to watch it with me. I'll be the host, and we may have one or two other guests if I can wrangle them away from their turkeys and other holiday goods. And if not, you're stuck with me, but I think I'm a lot of fun to be with, and you're really there for the Brooklyn Butcher anyway. So I am really psyched to be able to do that. It's one of the ways I wanted to be able to share the movie with all of you. I plan to go and travel with the movie a little bit if I can, if people will have me, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to get everywhere that everybody else is. So I thought, one of the ways we can do that is by going through a virtual screening. So let me know if you're interested. If you are, it's very simple to take part in it. I have a lot of hope that you'll be able to be there with me and have a good time. And we have some fun people in the audience. As always, it's wonderful to see you, Blachu Bear. Very happy that you can be here and happy that everybody else can be here too. We've got some guests from Toronto too. Hello. Thank you for joining us. And that's about it for me right now. Um, as always, just as a reminder, we are in the middle of making our next feature film, The Contract. And if you want to help us out, you can go to thecontractfilm.com. And that is the best way you can help us make this movie because we have the kinkiest, queerest film I've ever made at SideKick Productions coming. And I want your help to make that happen. So go to thecontractfilm.com. There's some amazing perks there, and you'll be able to find ways to make your mark and make us some have some opportunities to make this movie happen. So, but speaking of kinky and queer, we have our wonderful guest tonight who is doing their own wonderfully kinky and queer film, I think, and we're going to hear about that along with all the other work that Roger has done. So, without further ado, let me bring in Roger Connors. Hello, Roger.
Hello. How are you?
I am fabulous now that you're here. It's always so much easier when somebody else is in the room with me. So
Isn't it though? It's a lot more entertaining too, right?
it is. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself sometimes, and it's like, I mean, I love hearing myself talk. So come on.
Me too. I like hearing my own voice too much. It's too much for my own good. So
Well,
thank
that's
you
why
for
you're a
having
little bit
me.
like me, I think, because
Oh yeah.
Roger, you are a writer, director, and actor.
Yeah. And a fellow ginger at that. So
Exactly. So we are basically like clones of one another, I think.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I just don't have the amazing arm tattoos that you have. I need to get some of those. So
Oh my god. Now, listen, these arm tattoos I got when I was 19 and a go-go dancer, and I have a lot of regrets. So let's just say that you were smart to not get the arm tattoos.
fair enough, fair enough. But so Roger, you were a go-go dancer. I had no idea about that. Tell us more about yourself. I mean, we know that you are an amazing filmmaker, and we'll talk about that. But how did you get to be Roger the filmmaker?
Yeah, so I've been working in independent film since I was 20 years old. It's funny, I'm actually coming up on the anniversary of my first day on a film set. I always remember
Oh,
tail end of November. It was like right after Thanksgiving. And it's coming up on 20 years. Yeah, my first film set. I turned 21 on an indie film set. Like my whole life, fresh out of high school, has always been um, not just incorporating, but like first and foremost, it's been independent film. I've always made it my kind of obsession, and that's only continuously grown, and developed as I've gotten
mm.
older. But yeah, since then, I've gone on to technically I've worked on over 50 productions,
Oh wow.
various capacities. I've gotten to wear a lot of hats and just learn what it takes to make this machine move, which is a lot of moving parts. And you get it. I see what you're doing. I see your hustle. So you're right there with me, right?
Well, but people, and that's something that people don't always understand is how different independent film is from mainstream film.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of what you actually see, but the actual how it gets made is so much different, I think, than mainstream film.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of times indie film is just a bunch of people with an idea and like the determination to make it happen, and it doesn't even necessarily mean they have the know-how. Like I learned how to do it in the moment. My first film experience was an independent film called Elementary in Education and Death, and it just happened to be a really well run set, and I was an actor in that production. And I think it's because it was such a well run set that it inspired me to want to have similar experiences. Little did I know that for every great independent film set out there, there's another one in which you have no food provided and you're in the middle of the woods with a bunch of people you've never met, no costumes, and like a bucket of fake blood, and that's it, And we've all been on those film sets. But that first set was so well handled. It ended up the movie ended up premiering on the Chiller channel. Remember Chiller?
Oh yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, and so my
That's
first film got on
amazing.
Chiller, and I was like, "Wow, this is how it goes." And then after that, I was like, "Oh no, that was just a pleasant fluke." It's so much more complicated than that.
But honestly, my first experience also was really a really lovely experience. I mean, the first time I ever auditioned for a movie, I got cast. So first of all, what a great ego boost in New York City. So um, I think it's important to have a good first experience because
Mhm.
that can really set the tone for how you do the rest of your career. Really, I mean,
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people who've gone into it super excited and then they have one bad experience, they've never come back. I've seen a lot of people who were chasing a dream and eventually they gave up on that dream and they went and pursued something else. And I'm just a stubborn son of a bitch. I won't stop pursuing my dream no matter what, no matter how frustrating it may be. I'm going to keep on pursuing it.
but and that is another important trait for independent filmmakers that you don't see in other fields. Like they're not always independent filmmakers are not always the best filmmakers out there, but they're the ones who will make it happen no matter what. And
Yeah, yeah,
and I think that makes them some of the best filmmakers because of that. So
yeah. Well, I think the thing that, saying like the best, quote unquote, like also like they're the filmmakers that have the least means to make it possible. So who's to
absolutely.
say that if they were given the opportunity or the equipment or the funds, the finances, to do that to the capacity that they would like to do it. Who's to say they couldn't be amongst the best? But it's that determination factor that comes into play and says, you know what, screw it. I may not have those things, but I still want to do this. And so I'm going to do it regardless. And there is something I think really endearing about that. I think that's why, you know, I look at my social circle now, and so many of the people in my life who are like main staple people in my life are fellow filmmakers,
Mhm.
because we get it. You know, like my partner, I love him to death, but he's like, why are you spending over $50,000 of your own money to finance a movie that may or not ever get distribution? And I'm like, you don't understand it. But then I turn to one of my filmmaker friends and they're like, go for it. You know, so like, you get it.
Seriously, I remember my mother said to me, "Well, is it worth it?" And I'm like, "Of course it's worth it." I
Yeah.
mean, but she's looking for some sort of like financial
Yeah.
justification for it, or some sort of like, what do I get out of it that makes it worthwhile for me to keep doing this? And I get so much out of it, but maybe
Right.
I'm not getting what she would consider as valuable, which is a financial return.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people in my circle who I work with, they understand that, and the ones who don't are the ones who sort of start dropping out of my circle because
Right.
they're like, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm not. This isn't for me anymore. This was a fun side gig, but it's not my dream anymore. I want something that I can go home and not worry about anymore. versus
Yeah.
versus you and me who stay up all night and plan shot lists and everything. So
Well, I mean, the end game is always to have some kind of financial something. I mean, I don't even need to be rich off of it, but like if I could make a living off of this, I'd be the happiest clam. I would be so
yes,
happy.
I
And that
say
is
that
the
to
end
everybody.
game.
Yeah.
But in order to create a reel, in order to create material that can show what I can do, you know, I don't have the opportunities. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, so I definitely don't have the opportunities that even like, you know, just like living in New York, living in LA, like I have to figure out a way that people can even know that this is something I can do. So I have to do it for myself. And
Mhm.
you have to do it for yourself. And we need to make sure that until we do get that money, until we do get that support, until we do get those opportunities, we need to keep creating so eventually they become aware of what we have to offer.
But I think that there's because I've started talking to people who make movies outside of New York, which happens. Yes, everyone out there, people do make movies outside of New York. So, um, but I've talked to some people, and there are some really amazing opportunities to make movies in different ways outside of New York,
Mhm.
especially now with the equipment being so affordable and everything. Because,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking specifically locations, because
Mhm.
in New York it costs an arm, a leg, and a foot to to rent a location for 2 hours,
Right.
but there are so many places outside of the major hubs of filmmaking that I think are just grateful to be included and want to be like, hey, because I've seen it firsthand. I've seen I've been into filming in locations outside of the city, and they're like, oh, you want to make a movie and use my shop? Of course, come on in and use that. So it's just about being a nice person too, and saying, hey, could I film here? And most of the time those opportunities can present yourself. Um, from my limited experience outside of New York and everything, you might have a different
Yeah.
opinion in Cleveland. I don't know, but
No, I mean, like Cleveland is starting to become a little bit of a film hub. Like we've had a lot of major productions film here over the last few years. And their goal is definitely to make it a film hub. They're building
Mhm.
a studio and everything. Like, you know, Atlanta did it. Tax incentives. It's what it
Yeah,
comes down to. You know, but you know, thus far, like I've been very lucky. I've had plenty of locations that I filmed in, even up through Meat, that were donated, you know, free of charge. Thankful, so thankful that I've ever have had that. Because for every location that I had that, you know, that I've also had a location that was, I had $1,600 to rent it for a 24-hour period. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
it's, you got to take what opportunities you get. And also I am a stickler. Like the one thing that I am very anal about with my projects, my friend calls it the gay eye. It's because it's like I have a certain level of like production value I want, or else I'm like, why bother doing it? You know, like I want it to
yeah,
look as polished as possible. So like if I want to be, if I'm filming somebody who's wealthy, if I'm filming a scene for someone who's wealthy, I'm going to film them in a mansion, or else I'm not, or else I'm going to change the storyline. And like that's something that happened with Meat. 2 years. It took me 2 years to get it, but I finally got my mansion. I got it. I mean, it
Amazing.
took 2 years to get the scene done. It was the last thing we filmed, but I was like, I'm a stickler. I want a certain level of quality, or else again, I don't want to. I don't want to settle for less. You know.
I get that. I wish I were more like that, and I'm becoming more like that as I get more evolved. I think early on I was more like, I just want to get it done. So, and I think, but I also talk about how when you, especially if you watch Skeleton Crew, my first show that I ever did, every season sort of you see how we evolve as filmmakers. Because like yourself, we taught ourselves along the way, and I think
Mhm.
that I always like to say that Skeleton Crew is a great crash course in watching the development of an indie filmmaker because
Yeah.
yeah,
There's nothing like being on a set, especially for your first time, and like saying like we're going to do this, we're going to make it happen. Like my first time that I directed a project was a hellish experience, but I got it done, you know. But like it was so many lessons to learn, and at least like, and I'm sure you have this too, like when you sit back and watch Skeleton Crew, I have this when I sit back and I watch my films that I, worked on years ago, and I'm like, wow, the most satisfying thing here is like the amount of growth, like
yeah.
seeing the amount of growth, seeing what's come out of me in the last few years versus that at the start of my journey. I know I've come a long way, and that's like a really I think like empowering and self-assuring feeling to have, you know.
I always tell people that what I want out of my next project is to make it a step ahead of what I did with the last one. So,
Mhm.
um, it doesn't have to be. I wouldn't. I think I used better the wrong way earlier, and I'm glad that you caught me on that. And I think that I don't think I'm looking for better. I'm looking for a step in the right direction. Is what I think I mean by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I'm honestly looking for like myself to not make so many mistakes. Like I will
Yeah,
say, if like we're gonna say the term better, like I think that I look at my first set that I oversaw, that I directed, and I looked at just my overall organization skills and my game plan and like how prepared I was. And then I look at my last production, like when I was on set for my film Meat, and I'm like, God, there's an area where I see improvement. There's an area where I am better. I'm a better director because I understand the power of pre-production. I understand the
mhm.
power of preparation, scheduling. Like, tell me, how many sets have you been on where you've got there and there wasn't a physical copy of a script or there wasn't a day plan, and like I'll never make that mistake again for myself because I know that slowed the entire experience down and made it a less positive experience for people when I first made that mistake.
And I tell people it's so important to work on other people's independent film sets too, because you learn what you love and you
Mm-hmm.
learn what you don't want on your own sets by working on those sets. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it's the same for you. I'm sure.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
you've done 50 different movies, so
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, I think it's just a matter of like on any set I'm on, like when I'm not acting, I personally am eager to help out behind the scenes
yeah.
in whatever way, whether I be their PA for the day or they need someone to step in and help with costuming or like getting people prepared or doing makeup, like whatever it may be. I enjoy the experience of working behind the scenes so much that I like to wear different hats. So I try to make myself valuable. And I think the reason that I have seen progress in myself as a filmmaker is because there's like no job that's like not worthy. Like what I mean, like there's no job that I wouldn't take on a film set. I'll do whatever it takes just to be part of the experience because I know if I'm making some form of a contribution to that process in some way, shape, or form, I'm giving my all to make it the best it possibly can be, and that's what I want for everybody involved.
And it makes you feel more invested in the project too. It
Mhm.
makes you
Yeah,
feel like, oh, I feel like really I'm a part of this basically. So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
hi Jimmy, thanks for watching with us.
Thank
Um,
you.
So, Roger, let's talk about your current movie. You have a lot of movies we could talk about, but I think the one that I want to hear the most about is the one you're working on right now, which I believe is Meat. Yes,
Ah, what good timing with that banner. Thank you.
I know.
Oh, look at
But I
that.
mean, this costume, regardless of what I mean, the movie could be something I have no interest in at all. I am very interested in it, by the way. But this costume would just make me tune in right here and go like, "Oh my god, I need to see
Yeah,
what this movie is because this costume is amazing."
thank
Um,
you.
did you design this costume or?
Yeah, yeah. So it's something that I've been wanting to make a piece of queer horror cinema for the longest time, and like my first feature film that I kind of like sharpened my teeth on had queer themes, but they were like an undercurrent of this overall storyline. And so I was like, I would say for myself, I would consider Meat my first film as a competent director.
Okay.
I mean, though I've have other films I've done before on an indie level, like a lot of it was just my learning curve. Meat, I
Mm.
came into Meat and I was like, this is the one that I'm making my big shot. Like, this is the one that I'm going to put all the money into that I possibly can. This is the one that I'm going to Indiegogo campaign the hell out of it to see, just how far I can take this. And this is the one that I'm going to bring in some talent from out of state. And, we got Pandora Box from Drag Race. We got porn star AJ Sloan. Like, I was just like, I want this to be something that is, we're talking about a step up. Like, my trajectory, I wanted this to be the film that took it up, pushed it along, moved it a little further, and that was always the goal with me. And so the costume, like, I knew it had to be something kind of erotic. And I mean, honestly, I had purchased a jacket. I was always like fantasizing about having a spiked jacket, and I got this jacket, and I was really like, I mean, had it tailor made, specifically styled, and I was like, you know what, this jacket doesn't wear on me personally, like as the way I wanted it to. I was like, it looks like such a costume piece.
Mm.
And that was the first piece where I was like, honestly, like, this is such an edge to it. Like, this is such a badass vibe. Like, this might be the right piece to start working around. And so it was really started with the jacket. I
Mhm.
knew I wanted a lot of leathers. I wanted a lot of vinyls. I wanted a lot of rubbers. Like, this film is set within the LGBTQ plus underbelly of the nightlife, the bar scene, specifically in Cleveland, Ohio. But it's really supposed to be rooted just in any kind of like mid-sized town gay bar scene and the personalities that exist there. And so I wanted to bring that eroticism into the costume. I wanted to look both threatening and extremely sexy. And his name is the Stud, and he's covered in studs. So like, I feel like I kind of hit the nail on the head, or the stud on the head, dare I
This is
say.
my new horror icon, have you know.
Thank
The
you.
Stud, I am living for this, and these posters are amazing too. Like, you have such, I mean, these shots are just gorgeous. So,
Thank you. Thank
um,
you.
so
Yeah.
I guess tell us a little bit more about the movie. What is it about? What can you tell us about it, basically? Other than
Yeah.
the stud is around being studly, so.
So meat the main core storyline of Meat, it kind of deals with people who grew up in the gay bar scene, and maybe in their 20s were the upper echelon, and now in their 30s they're starting to see what life is really like when these things are
Mm.
not as important. And so it deals with a group of friends that 5 years ago they were kind of in their prime, and then they had an incident that resulted in an underage queer man overdosing and dying in a bathhouse,
Mhm.
and they're all associated with this. However, one of the friends, quote unquote, takes the bullet. One of the friends takes the responsibility and ends up going to jail for 5 years. And nobody came out to support him, so he goes through it by himself. Comes out of prison, a changed man, has an opportunity to move back home and take a job opportunity because he's having a hard time getting a job after going to prison, and so he gets this job opportunity. It brings him back home, and with that he runs into all the personalities that kind of betrayed him, and it's all revolving around just this kind of like uncomfortable energy where people don't know how to handle it. And in the midst of all of that, people who are involved with the original event start to turn up dead. Very much kind
Mhm.
of that classic slasher formula, but really, really rooted in, again, the LGBTQIA plus nightlife, the drugs, the sex, all of the things that kind of define it, both the good and the bad. And I wanted to show
Mhm.
some of that grittiness in it. So that's the core storyline. And as much as I wanted it to be a violent slasher, and it definitely has those really aggressive horror elements, I also wanted it to be a story about queer people of all types, all genres, all walks of life, and what we're struggling with. I thought if I was going to make a queer movie, I couldn't just be like, oh, this is about queer characters, but I'm not going to explore that further. Like, we haven't had enough of that yet. So it definitely dives into those characters. You get a lot of meat to chew on, but dare I say.
Clever.
Thank you.
No, I love that. I mean, there's so many things that you say that resonate with me. and what I try to do as well. I mean, I think it's important to show all facets of the queer community, the both the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think that makes it the most. I think that's the most authentic then.
Hmm.
But also, what I love is, I mean, you're doing this. Folks that I know you're friends with, and I'm friends with, the Monster Makeup crew, they're doing this, and we're doing this in Sidekick. We're making movies for queer people of all ages, and also confronting aging in the queer community, which is
Hmm.
not something that, I mean, frankly, your generation, my generation, we're about the same age. We didn't really have queer elders growing up because a lot of them passed away because of
Hmm.
AIDS. So
Hmm.
um, we're sort of confronting growing older in the queer community, but without having had that sort of those role models and everything. So we're sort of navigating it on our own. And what
Hmm.
does it mean to do that? And we didn't see that a lot of that in cinema because queer movies when we were growing up were mostly, if they had them, they were about young people who were coming out, or they're about young people in their early 20s. You didn't have
Hmm.
these movies like we do today. So
Right.
I think it's really interesting that we're all sort of doing this independently, but um, yeah, that's just me waxing poetic about something that I noticed as you were talking, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of that resonates. I think like one thing to acknowledge is even the last 10 years, like for as much as we've struggled with representation in cinema, also like look at the representation in cinema
Mhm.
that we have now compared to like even 10 years ago,
So
like
much.
now we have major playing characters who are queer. We're exploring queer backstories. It's not enough. I definitely don't think it's enough, but I do think we made progress. Like when I started doing this, I was scared to tell people I was gay because I was scared I
Mm.
wasn't going to get cast, And when I did get cast, it was at that time, it was like the stereotypical, like, which is fine. Like, but like, it's like, yes, girl. Like, and there was that character. And I'm an actor. I want to play all of the characters. I will play the fun and flamboyant gay. Absolutely. But like, I also want to play like the rugged straight man, or like, I don't know. I want to have those opportunities because I love to act and I think I can do all of those things. That was something that even in 2006, 2007, 2008, when I started doing this, I would go into an audition. I'd be like, "Hi, my name is Roger Connors. I'm auditioning for the role of Tom." Like, I had to like change it all up. That doesn't exist now, so I'm thankful for that. But also, like, look at what we're about to shift into. Like, and I'm not trying to go into politics, but like the need for queer stories right now is more than ever. Like, I mean, it's taken me
Totally.
2.5 years to get Meat done, but in a way, I'm like, thank God it's coming out now at like on the cusp of what's about to be like probably one of our biggest struggles as a community that we've experienced in a very long time. The need for queer stories right now. We need everyone at their loudest voices, screaming from the rooftops, making sure our stories are told because there are voices out there that are trying to drown us out.
I think that's why I'm so excited to make the contract now versus anything else I've made, because it is my kinkiest and queerest and loudest film that I've ever made.
Mm.
And so I understand what you're talking about. I think that this time feels right for movies like this to come
Mm.
out, and I'm very very excited to do that.
Yeah.
Um, Before we forget and get too far off, just a reminder to everybody: if the Indiegogo is still happening, so if you want to donate and support Meet, I know Roger would love the help to finish post production on this because post production is sometimes the most expensive thing.
Listen, and even after that, I mean,
Then
I'm
there's
keeping my
distribution. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm keeping the Indiegogo. It's in demand. We're so lucky that our last Indiegogo did hit our goal to complete the production, the filming of the movie. So that our last Indiegogo hit the goal. We've nearly doubled that goal at this point, but we do have like film festivals. Like the biggest thing that intimidates me right now, and I know you've gone through this. I haven't done a ton of film festivals. I work for Houston Horror Film Festival. I get to attend them, but I have not gone through the stress of submitting to countless festivals and being declined by countless festivals and paying for them. And I know that's coming. So the Indiegogo is still open, in demand status, and will continue to be at least through the new year. The movie itself, though, is like, I mean, it's being scored right now. It's in the middle of sound phase, and like
Yay.
it's almost done. Like we're going to be probably announcing a premiere here really soon. just waiting on that, sitting down and watching that final cut and being like, this is good to go, which is terrifying,
I am so excited for you to say you're doing a New York premiere so I can come and see it. So
I hope
we'll
so.
have to figure out a way to do that so that way we can make that happen. So
Well, AJ, my one actor, AJ lives in New York.
well, perfect incentive then
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
and
So there we go.
Um, I think this is probably a good time to mention to everybody that the person who filmed Meet the movie, I am stealing and having him film my movie, The Contract. So Meet looks gorgeous, and I'm going to steal all that and put it into my movie because I am. That's how indie filmmaking works too. You
That
steal.
is how it works. But like, if you're gonna steal anybody, please steal Mick, because he's first of all, he's the coolest human being I know, and I've known Mick since I think 2017, and I spoke at his wedding. Like, that's how close
Oh
we are. I spoke
wow!
at his wedding, yeah. And like, he's been in my life. He's the greatest ally. This man has filmed things for me that I can't. I mean, like, this is the side of a true ally. I have had him literally with a camera up a guy's butt shaft, like ass crack, literally like getting a composition right off the edge of a butthole, and he's done it without complaining or muttering a word. So that's a true ally, I would say.
That is so special. That's fabulous, actually.
Oh, but he's also, like, truthfully, like, and I'm not saying this because you're going to work with him. I'm just saying, like, his, we're talking about growth. We're talking about, like, upwards trajectory within your craft as a cinematographer. I have seen this individual grow so much. Like, you are blessed to have him on your film set. He is a workhorse. He will make anything he works on look so good. And the reason that Meat looks as beautiful as it does, and as bigger budget than it actually is, is because of him. So I've got to give him credit. Like, he is just fantastic.
And that's another thing I think indie filmmaking spend the money and on three things. I think the special effects, the audio, and the camera work, because those all of those things will make everything else just look so much better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm really excited because he snuck 2 scenes from Meat into his reel, and I saw those, and I'm like, oh my god, Meat looks so good.
No, I don't even know what's like. Listen, by all means, he is allowed to use it in his reel, but I'm like, I don't even know what's in his reel, so I have to go watch
I don't remember. I don't remember what the second one was, but the first one was a scene in a locker room, and that's all I'll say about it.
Oh, you got to see that?
I got to see that, and I was
put
like,
that in his reel. Oh,
I was also like, first of all, if you put this in his reel, then I go like, okay, he has no problem with my movie then. If this is what he's filming for you.
Let me tell you. Okay, well, now you know what we're dishing up with this movie, and Joshua can say firsthand that I'm not. Can I swear on this?
You can swear, yeah.
I'm not fucking around.
No,
ma'am.
Meat is. I have not been so excited for a movie in a long time because Meat looks so good, and I really am going to be first in line when it has its New York premiere, so I can do that because I am so excited. And not only did you do Meat, you also made another movie last year. This year. No, it was this year, wasn't it? You made Hollow Lake.
I did. All the gays.
Yeah.
Coming out. Yeah.
If everybody remembers my guest from episode 1 of season 4 of SideKick Power Hour, we had Troy and Brandon on the show. And Troy is the filmmaker who did Hollow Lake, and Roger was one of the actors in it.
Yes. So Troy, I mean, another person I go way back with. Troy and I co-host Dark Night of the podcast together. And Mick filmed Hollow Lake. And Mick filmed Hollow Lake because I said, Troy, if you want to film in the Midwest, because Hollow Lake is very much set in the Midwest, and I live in Ohio. And I was like, if you want to film in the Midwest, I've got a team. Like, just know it. Just film Meat. Troy jumped on it. We also brought on my DP, Zach Schildwalker, who is amazing in his own right. And then we had a very small crew, a small cast. Like, there was a small team, but it is a feature-length film. And honestly, like, get ready, because I really think Hollow Lake I think it's definitely, without a doubt, Troy's finest work by far. But also, like, again, like, we're talking about, like, unabashedly queer cinema. Like this movie is gay. I mean, it is gay. It is so gay. The things you see in this movie, I get shocking. Like shocking that Mick would be forced to film these things, but here we are. But yeah, Hollow Lake. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent.
No, I love it. I'm thrilled because that's how I've been describing the contract as well. I'm like, this movie is gay. It is very, 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 very gay. And
Yeah.
I was like, Mick, you know, here's the script. Make sure you read it first before you agree to it.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Trust me. Like,
No,
he'll be okay.
after I saw his reel, everything was fine. I was like, oh, okay. If he filmed that in the reel, then there we go. It's perfect. It's
Oh
so
my
good.
god, I love that that's in Israel. I'm so proud.
But absolutely, Meat is going to be such a good film, and I can't say that enough. From the little I've seen of it, I can tell it's going to be amazing, and your artwork is just so fabulous too.
Thank you.
Like this movie, this poster right here. I just love how how you designed it, so it looks like it was folded and everything.
So that's Zombie Brando. I hope I'm saying his handle right. He's on Instagram. He does a lot of horror movie style poster art, and he's been a big supporter of me for a hot minute. And so when we were doing our Indiegogo campaign, he was like, "I'd like to offer to do a few poster designs for the campaign," and I was like, "By all means, thank you." And he pulls this out, and I'm like, "What?" So it's like this can't just be an Indiegogo design. Like this is freaking great. Like I'm going to use this as one of my primary posters. So yeah, I got really lucky with this.
This poster is I could see this in a cinema for sure. Like this is very clearly. It's just you have such great artwork. All of I was so impressed from the beginning of when I saw your whole campaign from the start. I was just how amazingly structured it looked and how well prepared it looked, because sometimes people just launch Indiegogos and it's like they don't have anything there or they don't have a vision there, but your vision was clear. Everything was so on point from the beginning. So bravo. You don't need my positivity or anything, but I'm giving it to you anyway. So
thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think like the big learning curve I had with the Indiegogo after, like I had done Indiegogos before and like we like raised a few thousand, but like, you know, this, I think with Meat, like the big takeaway I had was like, I just, again, like preparation. And so for me, like I knew going into Meat, I was like, I need to, if people are going to give me money, they need to know what they're getting. And they need to know that I'm doing it in a way that is going to be appealing to the senses, you know, like every indie filmmaker out there has an Indiegogo right now. I mean, you're in the middle of it. Like it's the way to fund your films, and it's an amazing resource. But because of that, because of the volume of people trying to do that, how are you going to stick out from the crowd? You know, and that's really like I knew I was like I have to have something that draws people in, and I was like, well, I've got a striking killer, I've got a very queer product that there's not a lot of these, and I'm going to make it look as good as I possibly can. And really like all of those promo shoots, like we did like 10 promo shoots for our actors. And like, you know, I worked with 9 different photographers overall because I wanted a bunch of different styles. And that like doing that not only saved my ass with the Indiegogo, but it gave me such a clear and coherent idea of what I wanted my film to look like. And like, you know, like coming out of that, I was like, I know exactly how we're lighting this. The rest of my team did too. It gave Mick a chance to roll like, you know, B-roll footage on some of these things that we even included this in like the credits and everything, but really like figuring out his style and how he was going to film that lighting and everything. And like that literal year of just designing the aesthetic for Meat was honestly the best tool we could have had to propel us forward.
That's so smart. That makes a lot of sense. That's why they say take your time with things. I'm not very good at taking my time. I'm like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. I have another idea to make, but
I feel
we have a question for you from Zach. What's up with your new script, Roger?
First of all, this is Zach Schildwachter, who I did just mention, so I did not know that he was in this, but like, let's take a moment to acknowledge that Zach is my assistant director. He is my executive producer on Meat. He is another straight man who is just an amazing ally and gets it, and is extremely supportive of the LGBTQIA plus community, like so many ways. So he jumped on this project so fast, and he has been a saving grace. He's the reason that the script is as like coherent as it is. Like the original script was like triple the length, and he was like, we need to get this down. So he really saved our ass. And so our new scripts, so I mean, of course there's a sequel for Meat, and it's called Meat to the Bone. I'm just going to say it right now, and no one better steal that from me, because I'm saying it like it's mine. And so that is part of the press kit for what'll go out with eventually when we hit film festivals, and then distribution is like there's already a script for a sequel. Like we're ready to go. So that is the goal for sure.
That's amazing. By the way, everyone at SideKick Productions, we're making Meat to the Bone next year before Roger does. So.
Oh, how dare you!
I already have a script. It's right here. So.
Oh my gosh, I'm so mad.
Never. No. But I do want to audition, so I'm putting that out there right now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh, please do. I mean, like, of course you always want to go bigger, but the thing with me, like, here's the deal. Like, I always go bigger in the moment. Zach can attest to this. He's here right now. Like, I'm crazy about like my production value, as I said earlier. So I can never tone it down. So I specifically was like, I am writing Meat to the Bone to be far more like just easy to manage, less locations. If we're going to have one or two really amazing locations, let's focus on that. And like Meat has like a cast of thousands. Like it is such a big, excessive project that I was like, you know what? If anything, I learned like it's easy to get carried away. Let's scale it back just a little bit until we do have that like big production money. Let's just scale it back a little bit. But hopefully with Meat 2, if things go as I hope and pray, maybe we will have that big production money. Fingers crossed.
That's exactly what but that's such an important lesson to learn too, I think, from independent filmmaking. Because I did the same thing with A Taste of Youth, my first feature film. I was like, let's put everything into it. Let's have a million locations, and let's do everything we can. And I love it. But it was expensive and to do, and especially in New York City when you're trying to rent locations. Yeah. So with this movie, I'm doing the contract. I was like, let's try something different. Let's pare it down. Let's have a very tight script of like 70 to 80 pages, and only like 5 actors and 1 location. Let's see what we can do with that. And I am tickled pink with what I have, so I can't wait to make that happen. Yeah. But sometimes it's a lesson for ourselves in not going larger. It's going it doesn't have to be larger to be stronger or more of our vision getting across or anything. So
yeah, no, I think it's very easy to think like, in order for a movie to feel big, like you've got to go big and fire on all cylinders, and like that's not really the case. Like you've got a strong cast of 5 or 6 people. Like I'll say, like Hollow Lake, like was a significantly smaller project than Meat, but Hollow Lake I think packs just as much of a punch, and you'll see, as you shall see, because those characters are used wisely. Like the talent that's incorporated is used wisely, and it's very intentional with what it does. So yeah, I mean, I love a confined horror film too. Like The Strangers, anything to do with like one strong location. You're Next. I mean, that's a bigger cast, but still, it's one amazing location, a group of really talented people, and it's a fucking amazing film. So you could do a lot with a little.
So I guess that brings us to a good question to sort of wrap up, I guess. What are your horror influences? What are your movies that you are influenced by?
Oh gosh. So my favorite filmmaker is George Romero. I grew up, first horror film I saw at the age of 7 was Night of the Living Dead, and I was infatuated with it. So I was like, I've always been a big zombie fan. That's been my horror subgenre of choice as a kid, and now I stray a little more slasher. But Romero for sure. But I mean, honestly, like, of course, like the Argentos, the Carpenters, like like all of the classics for sure. I really do like try to find a little bit more off the beaten path horror cinema, though, to take inspiration from. Like a film that I've become a huge fan of in the last couple years, even though it's an older film, is Messiah of Evil, which is an amazing 1970s horror film. And like, I think like some of those earlier movies, like you don't even know how much influence they actually had. on the films that followed. A lot of these indie horror films that were groundbreaking and really trying new things and pushing boundaries. A lot of times they get kind of swept under the rug, and then it's the films that came after that are more acknowledged, because
Mhm.
they just did it in a bigger, louder fashion, you know. So that's a film I really, really love. But yeah, like Romero will always be my go-to because he was the ultimate indie filmmaker. Like he did it with nothing at all and created a subgenre, you know. So I would love to have that kind of influence.
Mick just recommended a Romero film I hadn't seen before, so I watched it on Saturday.
Oh,
I watched Martin on Saturday.
awesome. No, I love that he would have recommended that for you. Yeah.
I think he recommended it because it came up in conversation about after our first meeting about the look and the feel of the movie and everything, and so
Yeah.
he wanted to recommend that for us to check out, and so I did, and it was quite lovely. It was a really cute and talk about a very subtle film in many ways, but it was really I liked it a lot.
Awesome.
So. And
Yeah.
it's free on Tubi for everyone who hasn't seen it before. I know I hadn't seen it, and it's one of apparently it's George Romero's favorite movie that he made.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think understandably so, because it's such a great character piece.
yeah.
Like I mean that the focal character gets so much attention, and it's a really beautiful film. And I like that's the one that he had you watch because that makes sense to me, because
Mhm.
it still is very much an indie. It shines the independent qualities of that film are what shine through.
Yeah. It's very different than, but also I mean I don't say it's very different than Night of the Living Dead because I mean both are character pieces. It's just one is a more intimate character piece than the other. I would say. But,
I think that's why I love Romero so much. Is like everything he did had like a deeper meaning to it, it represented something more. Like he was so thoughtful in how he wrote his scripts and the themes that were running underneath them. Yeah, I would love to be recognized as somebody who like didn't just make horror movies but like also did it with intention,
yeah.
yeah.
And your first movie that you directed was Rebirth, right?
It was so I started making Rebirth, which I originally entitled Night of the Living Dead Rebirth. I started making it in my 20s, because I'd AD'd on several film sets, but I was like, I need to have the experience of doing this myself and learning how to steer the ship, because I didn't go to school for this. Like a lot of us didn't. So I was like, I need to, get dirty. And
Hmm.
so it was a hell of an experience. Good God. And that's where Mick and I became really close because a lot of the footage from Rebirth, through like an unfortunate situation with our initial editor, a lot of the footage got destroyed. And
Oh
so
no, that's terrible.
Mick came in to like salvage footage and piece it together, and it was a hell of an experience. But we got done. I mean, and I really didn't think anything was even going to come from it. I did not anticipate it would get even like a small scale distro. So it is available for people to see. People get so mad. I rewrote Barbara to be a flamboyant gay man. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to write a gay character and like, I'm going to write him as feminine as possible. And it's like amazing the internalized hate that even our community has towards feminine gay men. And I know that. And that's really why
Hmm.
that was my intentionality to begin with. And like the amount of people who can't stand the fact that this guy is feminine, like I think it kind of proves a point, but
Absolutely.
that was always the intentionality behind it. And it gets so much hate because of that. And it's like one of those things I'm like, gosh, this is still something that we really need to like learn to like not have be a thing, but it is what it is.
I like to play with that as well a lot with the characters I do. I do a lot with femininity and also bottom shaming. I play a lot within films because there's a lot of that in the community of judgment and everything towards anyone who's sort of feminine or perceived feminine in any way,
Mhm.
shape, or form. So
Yeah. Well, even like I mean, I hate it, but like look at like the how a lot of gay men treat like the trans community. Like
yeah, absolutely.
it's so infuriating, to think that one minority, in order to like rise above the other one, needs to like think that like they can talk down on this what is in their mind like lesser uh subsect about the community, and like it just boggles my mind as to how that even works, how someone who has been through any form of discrimination can then turn around and say, oh, I don't deserve this hate, but them, I'm going to give it to them. Like, I think it's just disgusting. So I really I mean, with me, but like just in general, I really try to like ensure that all subsects of the umbrella are shown, focused, and acknowledged, because we are a vibrant rainbow of personalities and people and identifications. And there's a lot of people who are trying to like snuff that out, you know?
And that's what I love about you, Roger, because you and I basically are doing the exact same thing because we are gingers. I think that's what it is. I think it's because we're both gingers. So
Stealing
um,
souls.
stealing souls, but
One
also
gay movie at a
horror.
time. Yes.
Bringing horror and stealing souls. So I mean, that's what we do. So Roger, I'm so grateful you could be here tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to push people toward? Like, let's make sure they go and follow Meet, everybody.
Oh wait, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Thank you for posting that. Yes, please follow Meet the Movie. I'm mostly active on Instagram, but it's available on all of those things. And there's some big things coming soon, including a trailer, of course. So not yet,
wait,
but soon.
I am on the edge of my seat. So
thank you.
are you still on Twitter, or do you have Blue Sky now for it?
I gotta update this. Yeah, I did. I literally just jumped over to Blue Sky. So the Scream, you can follow me at the Scream Queer on like all of the major platforms. Twitter, I am getting ready to let that go and just be on Blue Sky. So I will keep the Meet the Movie page on Twitter, I'm assuming, but I am slowly transitioning everything over to that Blue Sky platform.
Well, in the meantime, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter for now, and possibly forever, but we'll see. And don't forget that you can still donate to help with all the post-production costs and the festival circuit. Roger is not wrong. The festival circuit is very, very expensive, and also very, very sad when you submit to lots of festivals and they don't take you, but they still take your money. It's how it works.
My favorite part.
Yay! And don't forget, everyone, just turning it back on me for a second. Next Wednesday and next Saturday, the 27th and 30th, if you want to see a virtual screening of The Brooklyn Butcher, our second horror movie feature film, then you can just join me and you'll be able to do that. We haven't done A Taste of Youth yet. Eventually, we will probably have virtual screenings of A Taste of Youth, but we have some other stuff coming up for A Taste of Youth first, so that's not going to be virtual yet. And don't forget, if you want to help us make the contract, you can go to thecontractfilm.com and find some amazing perks and ways you can help us make this independent horror film happen. Like Roger says, we have to make loud, queer films, and I want to do that. Roger is doing that. Help us make that happen, everybody, because we know you want them because you watch them, so therefore I know you want them. But it takes a little bit of help from the community to make these movies happen, and that's the beautiful thing about independent filmmaking is you can see the communities come together and help everybody, and we bring voices to life, and we just need your help to make those voices come alive. So, but in the meantime, Roger, thank you so much for being here. I'm dying is the right word, I guess, to see Meat. So I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. How's that?
Yes.
My teeth into Meat.
I've used that one a few times, so yeah.
I didn't think I was that creative. So, but everybody, this has been SideKick Power Hour. This is Roger. I'm Josh, and follow us online. And in the meantime, have a very, very lovely rest of your week. Just a quick reminder, next Monday, I forgot, we are not live next Monday because it is a holiday week, but we'll be back on December 2nd. So I will see you on December 2nd. And now we can wave goodbye, Roger. So.
Bye.
And that's the tea.